Hello everyone and welcome to another Starcraft 2 replay. For this one I'm going to be doing a build demo for my Mass Raven build versus Protoss. Again, specific to Habitation Station. But we'll see with the new map pool if I can apply it to some other maps. This is also the first game of a best of 5 series, which is the finals of a tournament I was playing in. So I think after this video I'll follow it up with the rest of the series so you can see what happens there. But we'll keep the topic of this video as my build order for this build demo. So, anyways, I have a Protoss opponent here in the top right, Jarora something, Jigarora. Sure, why not? Anyways, he's the pink Protoss in the top left, and myself, I'm the red Terran in the top right. We're both like very high diamond. I think he's number 1 diamond. I'm like number 4 diamond in our respective divisions. So you don't need a wall off with this build, so I build my depot close to the mineral line. And after depot, it's going to be gas. So pretty normal start. Leave space for an add-on. And the positioning of this barrack is actually kind of important. I'll cover it a little bit later. Next I want to make another depot, which I have a strange feeling I forgot to do with this game. We'll see. Yeah, you should be building it like now. You don't want to get supply blocked at 19. You have a little bit of extra time, but let's see if I actually remember. So Marine and Orbital, and then bunker at the front line. If you want to know how to place this bunker correctly to get the wall off that I get, just turn on the building grid, and when you have building grid, just make it 1 hex away from that corner, and 1 hex away from that corner for the grid portion of it. So Orbital, keep making Marines. Yeah, the second depot should be done. So I'm probably going to get supply gaps at 19. That's bad. The SCV that makes the bunker is going to make a command center. After the command center, you want to go gas, engineering bay, and then second gas, while constantly making Marines and SCVs. As soon as you take a second gas, send out another SCV to scout. He's going to make sure that your opponent actually set up an expansion, because if Protoss doesn't have an expansion by 5:30, I think it's going to be a little bit bad. We're going to get 2 blind missile turrets as soon as the engine bay is done, 1 in each mineral line. And that'll actually be up in time for 5:30 Oracle, so even if you did that like probe cutting 1 base all-in Oracle play, you'll be pretty safe. In fact, they'll usually just rage quit at that point and accuse you of map hacking. So my scout did get in there, saw the Nexus. As soon as you hit 100 gas, we're going to be building a factory. Now, had I not seen the Nexus, you just want to get as many Marines as possible, as many siege tanks as possible, while walling off the front with bunkers and whatnot. You should be pretty safe. You also have a lot of extra minerals because you won't be taking a 3rd command center, so you can get things like missile turrets, maybe like a turret ring out here early to prevent War Prism play. I was going to talk about the positioning of these structures. This is where I put my first missile turret, so I like to have my factory within range of that turret just to protect this SCV making the factory, because if you make the factory anywhere else, an Oracle will pick off that SCV. And then I want the barracks near the factory because the barracks can build the add-on for the factory, get the first siege tank out quickly. When this orbital is finished, you want to build, or when this command center finishes, you want to build an orbital right away. And then after the orbital, I send 1 SCV to the front to slowly start building my front wall. Got my Marines making sure that he won't fly through this dead space with the Oracle. If you don't see an Oracle by like 7 minutes, you probably just want to load up the bunkers though. Siege tank as soon as the factory is done. constant SCV production. As soon as we hit 400, we want to build our next command center. This is assuming he took a nexus of his own, which we did scout. After that command center, we want to take our gas geysers, we want to get our starport, and we want to get our turret ring. 1, 2, and 3. Which is important to stop any sort of late warp prism harass, and any sort of warp prism play can actually flat out kill you because our army is really tiny right now. Actually, it's just 1 siege tank and 7 marines. Once we got that 1 siege tank out, we're going to start adding up our starport count. Ideally, we want to get up to 4. How you get there and how quickly you do it is up to you. But you definitely want to get Corvid Reactor started, because you can't start any Ravens until Corvid Reactor is 50 seconds complete. Looks like he forgot about his Oracle. So I'm going to come over here and pick it off, because I do have vision on it now with this missile turret. Once the command center completes, we're going to move it to the 3rd base here. You want to move your siege tank down to this position. So it covers both the ramp to your natural and kind of covers your 3rd as well. This is something I like to do. Set up a little turret or depot wall here. It gives you some protection. It kind of cuts off this area from being populated with stalkers, so it's a lot harder for him to snipe this high ground siege tank. It also grants a vision to the siege tank, so it can actually shoot to its maximum range, because siege tanks can actually shoot further than they can see. We're going to take the 3rd base as a planetary fortress, put a single missile turret in there to deal with like DT harass throughout the game, and get these gases populated as soon as possible. Getting up to 4 starports now while building our Raven production. Structure armor is actually important. Probably should have been done before now, but you definitely want it in time for your 3rd base. Just makes your PFs and bunkers a little, and makes all your structures a little hardier against like zealots and whatnot. And as we're producing Ravens, we're going to be floating a lot of minerals, so we're going to be making a lot of command centers. High-tech auto tracking, you can wait another minute or so before you get it. The structure armor is more important. High-tech auto tracking, you probably don't want it until you're ready to like do some harassment with the Ravens. I mean, if you can afford it, you might as well get it. But the +1 range probably isn't that important until you're starting to use a lot of auto turrets. And auto turrets, the more I play in this matchup, the more I like auto turrets in situations where I was originally using seeker missiles. It's really good versus almost every Protoss unit. Maybe not Immortals, but almost everything else. I mean, Colossus can outrange them, but take them down really slowly, and they trade pretty well with most gateway units. So as we're mass expanding here, I also like to send 1 SCV down to this dead zone to start making command centers. Just in case I'm getting like somewhat contained, it's somewhere else I can send out command centers from. So as I'm bringing this command center over here, I first bring the Ravens over to make sure there's no scout. Just take out the scout. And then I keep moving along to do some harassment. Just something to keep his army at bay as I'm setting up this planetary, although it's not turning into a planetary. I also suggest not transferring workers here until this is turned into a planetary. Because if he has a watchtower like he does now, he does not know I have this base, but as soon as I start mining, he'll know I have this base. So I don't want to give away that information until this have a planetary fortress here. He actually lost a decent amount of void rays too to that little attack there. I think this turret ring is very important for later in the game. Maybe even another turret here. And cordon off the whole top. If you can shut down his ability to harass your main base at all, And of course this base has planetaries and stuff. It really means you can, like later in the game, you can hang out at the south end of the map with your ravens, protect your new expansions. If he's able to get a War Prism in here and start letting Zealots off into your main, it can be really tough to deal with, especially if you end up with a composition that's like battlecruiser based. For instance, if you're against things like carriers, something like that, you probably want battlecruisers for the Yamato. So that's more or less the build. I think we've covered that. So once you take this third, it's just like lots of command centers. I want to be building around 3 at a time. You probably also want to add on factories. I think I do it late this game, but something to spend through your mineral bank with. Blue Flame Hellions and Hellbats both have their place in this matchup. Especially if he's going for sort of a sky composition to counter. If he's going for things like carriers or Tempests or Void Rays. It makes his... takes away a lot of the buffer of his ground units, and all of a sudden Blue Flame Hellions have a really easy time just like murdering all of his Templar. Looks like I'm trying to focus fire down the Nexus. That's not going to happen though. 2,000 hit points on Nexus. Pretty good. So used to facing like new command centers and orbitals and hatcheries as like expansion bases, which all have a lot less hit points than that. 3 hit points. Boo. So let's speed it up a touch. There's metagame advantages to this build. Like for instance, the longer the game plays out, the better it is for you, but typically Protoss thinks the opposite. So Protosses are often happy to play slow macro against you. Feedback is an issue, but not as bad as it was in Wings of Liberty. If you're ever to try this in Wings of Liberty, you get slaughtered. But with the 10 range on there for casting a Seeker Missile, you can actually have like little battles between Feedback and Seeker Missile with the Templar, and it usually works out well. Especially since the Templar want to move forward to get in range to cast the Feedbacks, it usually means they eat the Seeker Missiles you shoot at them. And they do die to Seeker Missiles, including the splash damage. Later on I like to put a PF here, take out that bunker. Like normally it's 3 bunkers, 1, 2, 3. I don't think I ever got the 3rd one this game. But I take out the middle bunker and replace it with a planetary. You know, your production's so important, you kind of want to make sure your front line is tough. So I'm taking down his gold once again. He's still mining from his 3rd, but things are looking pretty good for me. I got my new bases set up. Again, structure armor is pretty good against Zealots. The Flame Hellion's really good against Templar. You can also respond to Zealot threats. I'd even suggest Transformation Servos because there's so many spots where Hellbats and Hellions are good. It's nice to be able to switch between them. Especially when there's still this, well, I call it a bug, but Blizzard called it a feature, where Hellbats and Hellions are considered the same unit for your control groups. Transformation Servos can take away the annoyance of that. So he did take down my 5th, but I still have 5 bases left over, and he's just trying to establish a base he can mine from. Yeah, with the extra minerals of this build, I actually like putting a planetary up here. It's kind of funny. It shuts down all the mining on this stuff. There's only 1 gas geyser and half the minerals. So it looks like I'm finally spending that mineral sink. Getting rid of the Marines, they're kind of wasted supply, especially when SI is approaching max. So those bunkers are gone. And just kind of going into Hellbats. Marines are actually getting a lot of work done with the Hellbots constantly in front of them. They probably killed a lot more than they should have. Not against Colossus, they won't. Ride. Durable materials is an upgrade I often skip in TvZ, which is where I've always Master Raven the most. But I think it definitely has a place here. Anywhere where you're setting up turrets defensively or to zone out units, like that's situations where a 4-minute auto turret could be really nice. And the more I play with this strategy versus the Protoss, the more I'm feeling auto turrets is like the key spell to be using. I should actually mix in Vikings against Colossus too. I made that mistake the other game and I had to keep Seeker Missiling Colossus, and you don't want to do that. It takes 4 Seeker Missiles to kill a Colossus, and just a sparse amount of Vikings could have shooed them away a long time ago. Actually, I had a Colossus keep coming over here, got like 42 kills on my SCVs. I kept funneling into the gold. Yeah, so that was game 1. Nice to start off with something crazy like that. And that is the mass Raven build. I'll go over the build over one more time and quickly. So it's going to be supply depot and barracks, and then we're going to queue the barracks and the SCV making the barracks to the front line. Orbital as soon as the barracks is done. I should have started my second depot by now, so there's going to be supply cap in this build that shouldn't exist. So bunker, marine, just kind of looking for cheese at the wrong time there. And then the SCV that makes your bunker is going to make your command center. After command center, it's going to be gas, engineering bay, and gas. Then when the engineering bay finishes, populate the gas as soon as possible too. As soon as engineering bay finishes, 2 fast missile turrets, 1 at each base. Factory as soon as you hit 100 gas. Have the barracks build a tech lab for the factory. No, ideally I wouldn't do it this early, but I was supply capped, I think, so I did it earlier. It's good to have as many marines as possible. Oh, after you build your second gas, you need to scout for his expo too, to know whether he's going 1 base or not. You should see like at least a halfway complete Nexus. If it's just started or not started at all, you should be worried about some sort of cheese like this, for instance. Siege tank as soon as possible. I'm on the fence whether I like 1 or 2 siege tanks. I'm doing with 1, just kind of being a little greedier. Then a command center. And only after our command center are we going to take our 3rd and 4th gas, start our starport. I actually like to start the starport right on that tech lab. Kind of makes more sense. And make a turret ring, because any sort of warp prism nonsense coming into your base is going to be really bad at this point in the game. Corvid reactor, as soon as the starport's done, we want to slowly get up to 4 starports and start our Raven production when Corvid reactor is 50 seconds complete. With this command center done, we're going to take our expansion here, put our siege tank here, and immediately take these gas geysers and a missile turret. Structure armor is an important upgrade to have. You probably want it done by about now. I would start structure armor around the same time as you start your starport. You know, after you started this command center. Kind of want to get, the sooner you can get this, the sooner you get your 5th or 6th gas. So I like to not do other things until I get this down. And yeah, eventually get high sec auto tracking, eventually get durable materials. A lot of it from this point on is just building a lot of command centers, building a lot of ravens. And you know, probably around the 15-minute mark in the game, you want to throw down a lot of factories to start spending through your minerals. Remember to replace this middle bunker with a planetary at some point, but only after you've taken, say, your 4th and 5th base. Before you float your first command center to the gold, which will be where you take your first command center to, Make sure you clear it out with ravens, and then if you can, just kind of distract him a little bit. The game if he doesn't have the gold, even if you throw down just like 2 auto turrets in his main, it's something he'll react to. He'll force a warp into home or force him to pull units back into his main. This buys you a little bit of time for this planetary to finish. This mass missile turret thing is not necessarily part of the build, but just because I saw so many Void Rays. And I saw a lot of Void Rays, and I want to have my Ravens more in the south to set up my new expansions. I figured I should put like extra static defense up here. And that's basically the build order. As you start your Raven production, it's probably a good idea to throw it on an armory. Just start working on the ship plating upgrades. It'll help both your Hellions, Hellbats, and your Ravens, and then if you have to make a transition into something like battle cruisers or Vikings, I mean, you've already, at least you've got some semblance of upgrades already started. All right. So we'll call it the end of this video, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Check the description for a thumbs up link, and be sure to hit that subscribe button to see my upcoming videos. Next up will be the rest of the series versus this Protoss opponent, and also give kind of a build demo there on the updates I've done to my 2-Rax build. So if you've been using my 2-Rax build against Protoss, I can kind of show you what I've changed and how it's increased my win rate. So thank you for tuning in, and goodbye.